Hello everyone! Today we have the great pleasure of having Rand Fishkin over for a little chat about inbound marketing France. True SEO guru, Rand has dedicated his career to helping people do better marketing. Founder of SparkToro, he was previously co-founder of Maz and inbound.org. Also famous for his Whiteboard Friday video series, Rand is here to talk to us about SEO best practices. Hello, Rand Fishkin.
Tiffin, thank you for having me.
It is so nice to have you here in beautiful Rennes.
It is lovely. Yeah, it's gorgeous.
Thank you for being here. You came here to talk to us about SEO. During your keynote, what was the main purpose of your presentation?
Yeah, I think that for the last 10 years or so, we've had, as marketers, this kind of common standard practice around how we do inbound marketing. So SEO and content marketing and web advertising, all these things together follow a certain playbook. And that is changing very rapidly in the last 2 years, even really the last 18 months. And so that's what I'm talking about here at Inbound Marketing France, trying to prepare for this change, understanding why these big elements have shifted and why people who have been practicing inbound marketing and creating good content and doing their keyword research aren't getting the same results that they used to see just a few years ago.
Yes. So about that, if there were 3 things you wanted people to remember from your keynote, what would they be?
I think the big ones are thinking strategically about how your practices as a marketer have to change as the platforms and the attention online changes. So for example, when social media platforms shift from being focused on sending traffic out to promoting content that keeps people inside their network, we need to change our practices about how we think about driving traffic from social networks, promoting and creating content, who we create it for and how we create it and how we promote it. So that's one of the big ones. I think a second one is to think a few steps ahead of your competition in the search engine marketing, search engine optimization field. Part of that is keyword targeting, and then part of that is content that serves keywords, and also recognizing that in many industries, your biggest competitor is no longer your competition, it's Google. Google is taking away the clicks, taking away the marketing opportunities that the search engine once gave us. And so we now have to do our keyword research, our content marketing, our SEO in a very different sort of format to how we used to play that game. So the third one, I would say, is thinking about broadening our approach to maybe what you might call influencer marketing. So I think that unfortunately in the last few years, there's been this over-optimization, over-focus on Instagram and YouTube specifically. And those are not the only places where you can reach an audience. And so if you are looking at, hey, how should I do influencer outreach? How should I do public relations? How should I get coverage for my company, my content? How should I reach the audience that I want to pay attention to what we've built? You need to think broader than just,
Instagram and YouTube.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so this is basically like how social media and influencers can help you with your strategy.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is that I think that that's a little bit of a too narrow a way of looking at it, right? So influencers and social media platforms can certainly help you, but your definition of influencer, our definition has become way too narrow. Oh. When we say influencer, unfortunately, most of the time we don't mean person with a popular podcast and person or a content outlet that's owned by another company in our space, or a conference, or someone with a popular blog. We almost exclusively mean half-naked people on Instagram. That's silly. That's
basically,
only,
yeah.
Yeah, right? But that's only one way. That's only one avenue. And so I think this whole idea of influencer has to go back to being a broader term, or we just have to come up with a new word for what we want to call finding all the sources of influence and marketing in all those places.
So do you have any advice on SEO best practices for 2019?
Sure, yeah.
Well, let's hear it then.
Yeah, okay. So I think one of the ones that I will talk about in my keynote is specifically around keyword research. When lots of folks are building their keyword research list for doing SEO, today, unfortunately, too few of us are considering the important metrics that really matter, that have changed over the last couple of years, and those are thinking about click-through rate percentage. So if I rank well for this keyword, can I earn a high enough percentage of the clicks that Google, might send through to make it worthwhile? Or should I be focusing on longer tail keywords, different terms and phrases, rather than sort of the head of the demand curve where Google is oftentimes taking away a lot of the attention, putting so many ads above the fold, putting so many rich snippets of all different kinds above the fold that there's just not a lot of opportunity. And then I think another one on the keyword research side is also thinking about your audience and what they search for before they need your product rather than exclusively when they need it. It's really, really hard to compete in SEO or PPC exclusively at transaction time. So if someone searches for, holiday in Rennes, and they have already visited a bunch of websites, they've already seen a bunch of ads, they've already visited a bunch of your competitors, and the only thing that you're trying to compete on is that top PPC ad spot, you're going to have a terrible time, right? It's just really rough. The conversions are low, and the expense is very high, which means the return on investment is kind of terrible. And so I think the smart thing that a lot of marketers are thinking about ahead of time is using their content, their brand, coverage of what they've been building, third-party sources, social platforms, all of these things, email addresses, to market to people before they're ready for that conversion, and thus be able to compete better at conversion time with a higher ROI and a lower cost of acquisition.
Good, thank you.
Yeah.
We are hearing a lot about position zero,
Sure.
But it isn't reachable by everyone. So how can companies boost their website traffic?
Yeah, position zero. So this is basically the what Google calls the featured snippet, and this appears, above the rest of the organic results. Although usually you're also in the organic results along with that top position. And interestingly enough, I think a lot of people care about it for voice search and voice answers, because that snippet is generally what Google uses to read out to you, via Google Voice search. And so the opportunity there is high. I think, there have been a lot of research studies. Stat, which is up in Vancouver and was recently acquired by Moz, they've done some great research showing that position zero click-through rate, is much, much higher when you own one of the top few positions and position zero, the featured snippet, than just being in one or two of those, one of those alone. But I would think very carefully about whether the query that you're trying to rank for, the keywords, are ones where people are likely to click or ones where they're just looking for a short answer. Classic example would be something like, how many people live in Rennes?
Mm-hmm.
There's not a whole lot of value in ranking there and saying, 294,000 people. No one's going to click, right? You're not drawing very many clicks, and so I would reconsider ranking for a keyword like that, even if there's a lot of search volume. I wouldn't go after the featured snippet.
Because it doesn't transform.
It doesn't mean anything, right? You're going to get maybe a 5% click-through rate if you're lucky, probably not even that. And Google is very likely going to extract that information and just include it in an answer box of their own in the future, which won't even send you any traffic. They might already be doing that, right? They do that for a lot of things like that. So I think that's a part of the consideration set that goes into, should I try and get a featured snippet? If you determine, yes, I should get this featured snippet, this is valuable, I can get high click-through rate here, being in position zero will bring me a lot more traffic, awesome, that's wonderful. in order to get that ranking, you generally have to structure the content on your page, especially the very first paragraph, or the first paragraph that describes the answer to that question, or the answer to that query, in such a way that Google can easily process and recognize the language as being a clear, succinct answer to the query. And the negative part is that will drive down your click-through rate, but it will probably mean that you get the ranking position, not somebody else.
I get it. So it's funny you talk about vocal search, because I was wondering if adapting a website for vocal search was one of the main goals for companies this year.
I'm a total skeptic. I don't know.
Really?
Yeah, I don't. So let's see. First off, I think that voice search is different than voice answers. So voice search is very popular. And I think optimizing for voice search, as long as there's a screen that shows you results, is exactly the same as optimizing for a typed in search. It doesn't matter whether you say the words to your microphone or you type them into your laptop or you input them in your keyboard on your phone. Doesn't matter, right? As long as there's a screen of results, same exact optimization process. I think most of the time when people talk about voice search, what they really mean is voice answers. I don't know the value of ranking in voice answers. To be honest, I really don't. I think that most of the time the value is somewhere between extremely small and 0.
Okay.
Not for every search. You can find some exceptions here and there, and maybe you can make the case, and in which case, okay, fine, go ahead. Try and get that featured snippet for that voice answer. But otherwise, going back to your marketing team or your executive team and saying, okay, 2019 is the year of voice search. We need to do everything we can to...
Yeah.
What are you talking about? No.
It's not going to convert as much.
A, it's not going to convert as much. B, it doesn't happen all that often, especially with considered searches, right? So nobody says, okay, Google, tell me where I should travel next year.
Yes.
No, right? They don't even say, Google, okay, Google, book me a hotel in Red. What? No, that's crazy. What hotel are they going to book you?
It's too risky.
Yeah, you need to look at the results, right? Yes. And so I think a lot of voice searches are, Google, how many ounces does a cup of flour weigh? Great, right? Google, what is the temperature to fry chicken in for oil?
Yeah, you won't get any click on that.
Yeah, you're not getting...
You just get the answer, and then you're not going to go on the website.
Exactly, okay. Exactly. So I think voice answers is a little bit of a misnomer in terms of people optimizing for them. There are some use cases where it can be helpful to have your particular answer in there, but not that many, especially not that many beyond what you already should be doing to get the featured snippet and to rank in position 0.
Thank you. My last question would be about artificial intelligence. How can it be put to use for SEO purposes?
Okay, so...
That's a tough one.
Yeah, especially because I think most of the time when people say artificial intelligence, at least in the technology community, what they really mean is machine learning,
yes.
Right? There's almost no artificial intelligence technology out there, and the very few companies or organizations that have done it have not really gotten to a true point of artificial intelligence, right? We don't have sentient thinking machines that can compete with human beings in terms of what they can accomplish. That being said, machine learning and certainly things that go in the direction of AI can be applied in some particular cases to certain kinds of companies and organizations. But gosh, when it comes to doing SEO or content marketing, I'm a huge skeptic. I have yet to see anyone, any organization in the world, anywhere, produce high-quality machine-created content that ranks well consistently, that is high-quality enough to earn amplification. Even transcripts, for example, this interview that we're recording, a transcript of this that's created by Amazon's machine learning, listening and transcription technology it's not very good, right? You're going to want a human being to look over that and to edit it, and that's probably going to be true for another 5 to 10 years. And then maybe after that, we'll be able to use it for those transcriptions. If you've seen YouTube's transcripts, you've seen this problem too, right? It's just terrible, and worse in French than in English for sure, right? I mean,
haven't done the comparison yet.
I mean, English is the language that it's best at because Google and Amazon and all these places are in the United States, but in other countries' languages, it really gets awful. So I would say there are, if you're going to say we should do something in AI or machine learning for our content marketing, for our SEO, for our web marketing purposes, I think that's the wrong way to think about the equation. Right? The way I would think about it is, we have this marketing problem. What are good solutions to this marketing problem? And if something comes up that happens to be in the realm of machine learning or AI, great. Now you can use that to solve it. But saying, oh, let's use machine learning, that's like saying, hey, let's use virtual reality to solve this. What? Why?
Yeah, so they're very two different things.
Don't come up with solutions before you come up with problems, right? This is just a general good rule of thumb. It's sort of like, hey, I've heard that, whatever it is, space technology is going to be really hot in the next few years. How can we use space technology, in our content marketing? What? Who thinks that way?
Who asked about it?
Yeah, I don't know. It's very strange.
No, yeah, I get it. The fact of not creating any problem. Like, you need to know the problem before you get the answer. It's very clear now that you say it.
I mean, I think this happens a lot with trends, right? So a few years ago, everybody was talking about, hey, mobile is the future, so we need a great mobile strategy. And it turned out that, what was a great mobile strategy? Making your website design responsive.
Yes.
I don't know why we obsessed about this, right? It's like, oh yeah, we should make it look good on multiple screens. Okay, great. That's pretty good. And then there was this huge obsession for years and years with every company needs an app, right? We all need to develop an app, and how do I rank in the App Store? How do I get users to my app? And people stick to that.
No, don't work for everything.
No, there was no point to all of it, right? I think it was probably 7 years of just marketing departments and conference sessions just spinning and spinning around this topic that ended up being have good responsive design.
I get it. Well, thank you very much for being here and for answering our questions.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
It was really nice having you.
Yeah, cheers.